So thank you to Ian. We have a question here. Are there any situations where I should adjust my suspension, temperature, rain, technical course, etc., or should I just leave it where my suspension pro has set me up?
Yeah, so the biggest thing with this is as your rider experience goes up, your bike performance needs to move along with you. And if you don't do that, what we end up seeing is that so you start here, new rider, not a lot of experience, you're going to progress pretty quick, and you're going to get to the point where you're outriding your stock settings, and you're going to start feeling like you're almost crashing, the front's chattery, or you're bottoming out, doing stoppies, pumping out of corners, stuff like that. So if you progress on this track, you will crash, um, and you'll pretty much keep crashing, and your riding won't progress. And what happens is you'll plateau. You'll just be stuck at this point. Until you get a baseline setup or get something adjusted to move the bike up to match your performance and the forces that you're putting into the chassis. So that is going to allow you to continue to progress and keep growing, keep learning as a rider, and keep pushing limits. But again, you're going to get to a point to where you're overriding those components for what you have. So again, you go past that, you start crashing again, and then you start plateauing, and you'll just be stuck down here, not progressing, not learning, and becoming timid, and be stuck in intermediate. That's a super common thing we end up seeing. So at that point, after baseline setup, maybe you go to upgraded suspension where it's a K-Tech, Öhlins, revalve, different springs, stuff like that. And then again, it kind of unlocks a new feel and new level of performance that you can continue to push to. But again, as we know, you continue to push, you will crash or plateau and just be limited, and you will stop learning. And it just keeps on going on like this. And then as you keep going up, this gets harder and harder to make that step. And these are not to scale, right? So every little step at this point is going to be small percentages, basically, as opposed to down here. Every change with this is going to be more significant.
Yeah.
So
I think it's important to point out that a lot of people kind of will stall out in this baseline to upgraded stuff. Most people will never get to the point where they need that pro suspension, right?
Yeah, some people don't want to either. They get to the point, the bike is comfortable, and they were smart about it. They listened to their feedback, they listened to what they were feeling in the bike, whether it was like trying to kill them, wasn't turning the way they wanted, just something didn't feel right, they couldn't keep progressing. So, and they communicated, they worked with somebody that they trusted, and they were able to stay underneath this line and progress the bike with them as they continue to progress to the point to where maybe they get here and they're comfortable and they just enjoy their bike, going to new tracks, trying new stuff, and just loving riding.
Yeah. So back to Ian's question with the rain and temperature, he's kind of living in here. He's got the nice upgraded setup stuff from the pros. When should he, start playing with his clickers or adjusting his suspension?
Yeah. So conditions like rain, right? So you want to soften up your suspension. You don't have the grip that's typically there. So it depends on the rider, depends on the pace, but typically on the order of like 4 to 6 clicks out on compression rebound. Soften up your preload. Just make the bike more supple. Any of those bumps you're going to be hitting in the rain, the grip just is not going to be there. So you want to be able to absorb the bump more, and not put so much force in the tire and push it out to make you crash. Temperature, same thing. With that, if it's cold in the morning, your tires aren't gripping in the same way that they maybe would under warmer conditions. Maybe not as malleable, right?
I actually had that last weekend with a guy who had his shock was too hot. Yeah. Because it was a hot day out, and so we had to adjust his suspension because his shock was getting overloaded.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe if it's cooler in the morning, you go softer on the clickers, just to accommodate for that the oil within the shock being colder and behaving a little bit stiffer than it normally would. So good point on that. Surface changes, right? If you're on a smooth track, you can get away with running clickers in a bit tighter, getting a bit more feel, a bit more preload, you're putting more force in the tires. But if you go to a bumpy track, you're going to need more compliance. Otherwise, the thing will kick you all over, and you'll be limited by the bike and actually kind of move yourself back down to around here. So you have to get it back into the window of where you want to be operating. So if you're a new rider, why would you not just want to go straight to a pro bike? Why would you not just want to hop on one of my R6s or
Yeah,
King the Bagger's bike, right?
Yeah, you think, oh, then I have all this room to grow into it, right?
Yep.
But flip this is why you probably don't want to do that. So your stock suspension is set up to be comfortable. You're riding it on the street, it's bumpy, it's not, you're not pushing into it. So you've got maximum comfort, but you can't really feel what you're going on.
You don't want to feel it on the street. You want to be riding like most people, at least on the street, they want to feel the expansion cracks, every bump. They don't care. They just want to be riding on a pillow, A to B, having fun. And they're not looking for trying to figure out what the bike is doing. And they're not pushing it, so they don't really need that.
Right. So as you're kind of going down the scale to the pro level, you want to feel everything that's going on because you're pushing it to the absolute limit. And you want to feel exactly what's happening with your tires, but that's not going to be comfortable.
Yeah, so what you're really doing is you're giving up comfort a lot of times in exchange for feel. So whether it's with the front or the back, you want to feel exactly what's going on with the tires. If I give this input, I know exactly where the front is, I know what it's doing, or I go to the throttle, I know exactly what it's going to do, I can feel every portion of it. What that means, because you feel all that, you're also going to feel every bump, every crack, everything on the track.
And I think something that's super important to point out here is that if you're not comfortable to some extent, you're not going to progress. If you're just constantly fighting the bike and it's super stiff and you're like just uncomfortable the whole time, you're more concerned about like not dying basically than you are about like actually progressing your riding. So you have to find somewhere in the middle where you're still comfortable and you're getting the feel that you're looking for, but it's not too much and it's not nothing.
Yep. So we've had riders actually have a stock, say like a Aprilia 660 or something, pretty decent bike. They'll get it set up for them, baseline setup. They'll start progressing, and then what they'll do is they'll buy like Pro ZX6 or ZX10, and all of a sudden they're like, oh my goodness, like I can't ride this thing. I don't know what's wrong with it. Like it's too much feel, too much feedback. I feel like I'm gonna crash everywhere, and they're not pushing the bike to the point to where they need that feedback. And going from a bike that doesn't have all that feeling and vibration and noise, right, to the rider, going from a bike that doesn't have that to one that has all of it is oftentimes way too much for newer riders, even like intermediate riders, and it becomes overwhelming to the point that they're like, oh, I feel like I'm gonna crash. I feel like I'm gonna tuck the front. And we have to re-explain to them like, no, like what you're feeling is good. You're feeling everything about the track, everything about the bike, and you need to learn what the limit feeling is from that.
But a lot of times they get that too much feeling and they're not having fun anymore.
Yeah, well, they think they're going to crash. They think that's the feeling they're looking for, but in reality, they're feeling everything that they should be, and they don't know it. So that's why you really have to...
You have to approach it slowly.
Yeah, you have to grow with the bike, basically.
Thanks again to Ian for the awesome question. I hope you all found that helpful. If you have any additional questions, we're looking for our next video topics, so drop them in the comments below or send us a message, and hopefully we'll see your question next.
Thanks.